What is up, fellas? How we doing? Thursday night football, little Jaguars and Bengals. I'm excited to talk through this showdown slate with you guys, answer all your questions. Just for the next 35 to 40 minutes, we'll talk through this slate. Any lineup specific questions, whatever it may be, you can start throwing those in chat, and I'll try and talk through everything with you guys. But appreciate all you being here as always. What's up, Didi? What's up, my man? Is Dan Arnold playing? We don't know yet, Bill. Don't know yet. No audio? Microphone should be working, Colton. Should be good. But is Dan Arnold playing? We don't know yet, Sway. Actives and inactives come out in like 15 minutes, I'm pretty sure, so we'll know then. But I think Dan Arnold's going to play. I figured if he would have been inactive, like we probably would have known by now. But yeah, we'll get official word in like 15 minutes. Because I think they release actives and inactives like an hour and a half before kickoff. Got a lineup with all three, Chase, Mixon, and Burrow at captain. I mean, that's a very solid lineup, Adam. There's enough value to fit in those guys. We talked about in the video, Alden Tate, Jacob Hollister, Carlos Hyde. Like, there's plenty of cheap options. I don't think any of these punt plays on this slate you're going to really feel great about. Like, none of these guys have, like, massive upside, but they're so cheap, they're going to get enough volume, enough opportunity to be able to pay off their price points. So, if you want to build, like, a really top-tier lineup, if you want to fit in a lot of these top-tier guys, both quarterbacks, Mixon, you can make it work on this slate because there are some playable punt options for sure. Hollister will likely split snaps with him. I mean, yeah, that's possible. We don't really know what they're going to do with Hollister and Arnold. I mean, Hollister got 6 targets last week, and he was the clear, number one tight end. So, part of me thinks Hollister is still going to be the number one tight end, at least for this game. I think probably Dan Arnold takes over that role, as the season goes on. But I think, especially for this game, Dan Arnold, he just got with the team a couple days ago. I don't know if he's just going to go out there and just be like an every down tight end right out of the gate. I think Hollister will still get some opportunity. And Hollister is super cheap on Draftkings, so I do like him as a punt option. Don't sleep on Boyd. Big game coming. That's a gut call, though. Yeah, Boyd, I mean, without T. Higgins, there's going to be plenty of opportunity for Tyler Boyd, him and Jamar Chase. And we kind of saw that last week. Both those guys got into the end zone. I do like Tyler Boyd a good amount. I think he is a little bit underpriced. And he's projecting really well compared to the guys priced around him. With the projections that I use, Tyler Boyd's projected higher than Marvin Jones. He's projected higher than James Robinson. He almost has the same projection as Jamar Chase. So the projections that I look at, that I use, have Tyler Boyd really high. So he definitely, at 7,400, he's a really good option for sure. And he's definitely captain worthy, I think. Urban said Arnold is playing. Yeah, we'll know in a few minutes. I assume he'll be active, though. What's up, Suave? Good evening, Noah in chat. What's up, my man? What's up? Any running backs as captain and is 2 quarterbacks worth the money on or risk on FanDuel? I mean, I would say on FanDuel, and usually for every site, man, I tend to side with the quarterbacks. Just especially if you're playing single entry, quarterbacks just give you such a high floor. Now, if you're playing the Millie Maker and you're trying to win $1 million and you're trying to, solo ship, obviously you can do something, off the board. You can get really weird. But quarterbacks tend to be the safest options on these showdown slates. And especially on FanDuel where, the MVP versus a captain, it's a bit different. On FanDuel, you're just trying to get the highest score in your MVP spot. So whoever scores the most points tonight, you want them in your MVP spot. Whereas on DraftKings, with how the salaries work, just because Joe Burrow is the highest scoring player tonight, if he were to be, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be the winning captain because, the salaries, there's a salary difference. I tend to always like FanDuel. I mean, I don't really play single game on FanDuel, but I would tend to play both quarterbacks there if I can. FanDuel's pricing usually is always pretty soft, though. You can easily fit in, some of the top tier options. Defenses are in play today. I mean, I guess they are. Trevor Lawrence has been really turnover prone so far. He's thrown, I think, 7 interceptions already this season. Yeah, Trevor Lawrence has already thrown 7 interceptions, so I guess you could play the Bengals defense, but me personally, I'm probably not going to play the defenses on this slate. I tend to avoid the defenses in general. Defenses just rarely are they going to put up a score that you have to have. In order for a defense to put up a score you have to have, they're going to have to either get a ton of turnovers or they're going to have to get a pick six or a scoop and score. And I'm just going to bank on that not happening. If you force me to play a defense, though, I would prefer the Bengals defense. Hey, Noah, how's it going, man? How valuable is Auden Tate? I mean, I think Auden Tate, I don't know if we can expect him to go out there and get like 8 targets. I don't think that's going to happen. But he played almost 60% of the snaps last week with T. Higgins out. And T. Higgins obviously out again tonight. He only got 1 target, but if Auden Tate's going to be out there for 60% of the snaps, if he's going to be out there running routes, I mean, I'll take the shot on him at $400. Like, for this really cheap salary, I mean, there's a possibility, obviously you don't want this to happen, but there's a possibility that even if Auden Tate scores 0 points tonight and you play him, you could still cash. Now, I know you're not playing to cash, you're trying to win first place, but like Auden Tate's so cheap that it's really going to be hard for him to kill your lineup. And even if he gets like a couple points, he's probably going to be good at his salary. So yeah, Auden Tate's the best value play on the slate, I think. He's going to be popular, I have a feeling, but man, $400, that's so cheap for a guy that's going to play 55, 60% of the snaps. And he's a pretty talented receiver too. He went to Florida State, so I know a good amount about him. He's a big body guy. He's someone that I think, should be utilized here. Any good prize picks props? I can take a look, Christopher. Most of this, I've already given out a few stuff, in my video, if you already checked that out, but let's see. So I gave out over on Laviska's receiving yards, and it's still at 41.5. So I still like over on Laviska's receiving yards if you want to take that one, if you haven't already. And I said over on Jamar Chase fantasy points, over on Tyler Boyd fantasy points. Both of those are still the same, so I do like both of those as well. I gave all 3 of those picks out in my video. Some more, though, that I think you could go to. Like, I don't want to give out too much because I do give stuff out to Patreon members, but like C.J. Uzomah, 5 fantasy points. I know that's really low, but God, C.J. Uzomah, I just don't think is going to be much involved in this offense. Like, so far this year, he's seen a total of 5 targets. He scored 5 fantasy points once this season. So it's a really low number, but I think C.J. Uzomah under 5 fantasy points actually looks pretty solid because I just don't think he's going to get many targets. He probably gets like 2 or 3 targets, and you just got to hope that he doesn't catch those targets, and he's easily going to go under this number. So that's another pick I like to go along with the 3 that I already gave out in my video. Not football related, but are you covering the NBA preseason, or are you waiting till the actual games start later in October? Probably not going to do preseason, DD. Normally, I don't do preseason, and especially with NFL going on right now, I probably won't be. Like, if there was no NFL going on, I probably would get into preseason. I normally don't do preseason for any sports, and I probably would if there was no NFL. But since there's NFL going on, that's my focus right now. I'm not going to look at preseason. But, yeah, obviously when the regular season starts, we're going to be making a ton of NBA content. We're going to be streaming NBA. I'm always excited for NBA season. NBA is my favorite sport of all three that I play. And I know a lot of you guys enjoy my NBA content. What's up, Noah? Do you have Boyd's ownership at captain tonight? Yeah, I can get it for you. So right now, Tyler Boyd projected pretty highly at the captain spot. He's got 12% projected captain ownership, which is the 3rd highest on the slate, behind Joe Mixon and behind Joe Burrow. I mean, the projections that I use have Tyler Boyd projected very high, which I think is correct. Like, I think Tyler Boyd's one of the better receiver options on this slate. 12% captain ownership feels about right. I feel like he'll probably come in right around that number. And I'm still fine playing Boyd at captain. I think Boyd's a pretty good option at the captain spot. Good evening, Noah. In a single entry, I don't think I want Chase tonight. I just have a gut feeling I'd rather go with Boyd, and I got Robinson in my MVP tonight. Thoughts on FanDuel? I mean, yeah, if you want to go with Boyd over Chase, I think there's nothing wrong with that. Like, Jamar Chase, he's been great this year, but he's definitely gotten pretty lucky when it comes to touchdowns. He's scored a touchdown in every game so far this season. He's been doing it on not much volume either. Like, he scored a touchdown, only got 4 targets, 2 catches. Last week he scored 2 touchdowns, and 2 of his catches were touchdowns. He had 4 catches last week, and 2 of them were touchdowns. Like, that is not sustainable. At some point, Jamar Chase is not going to score a touchdown every single game. I still think Jamar Chase is a good option, especially since T. Higgins is out again. But it does make sense to fade him, I think, if you want to go with Boyd, to get a little bit different. Although I think Boyd and Chase will be very closely owned, or their ownership will be very similar. But James Robinson in the MVP, that's probably, I don't know if that's something that I would be doing, William, but I think James Robinson's going to be really low owned in the MVP captain spot, whatever it may be. His ownership at captain MVP is going to be pretty low on this slate. And obviously, he's got upside to be a winning captain. Like, he's going to get a ton of volume. It's just the matchup against this Bengals defense is not great. The Bengals, they've been a lot better against the run so far this season. And I do worry a bit about, about the game script for James Robinson. They probably are going to be playing from behind. So I just don't know how many carries he's going to get. He'll probably still get good pass game usage. Just the carries worry me a bit. Who is your favorite captain tonight? I mean, if I was playing one lineup, I would have to say, like, Tyler Boyd would probably be my favorite captain overall if I was playing one lineup. But, man, there's so many viable captain options. Like, you could play Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, Marvin Jones, Laviska, DJ Shark. Like, I think all those guys are captain viable. Really all the top-tier receivers in this game. And I guess if you wanted to, like, YOLO, you could play Auden Tate at captain. I don't think I would do that, but you could do that too. But yeah, there's so many viable captain plays. And then the running backs too, like Joe Mixon, James Robinson, they're viable captain options as well. I would say, though, that Tyler Boyd's probably my favorite captain. One of Tate, Mike Thomas, and Uzama will get 10-plus fantasy points. Hopefully it's Tate, because I think Tate's the one that I'm playing out of those three. I don't see... The only way Uzama's going to get 10-plus fantasy points is if he catches a touchdown. Probably all those guys. I mean, if any of those guys score over 10 fantasy points, it's probably going to be because they catch a touchdown. But I think that Tate is the most talented receiver out of those three guys. He's young. He's a big body receiver. He's the guy that I would bank on. Best captains, yeah, we just kind of hit on him, Victor. Tyler Boyd's my favorite captain, I think, but really all the receivers, all those receivers from Laviska up are good captain plays. Same with the running backs, too. Although I would prefer, Joe Mixon over James Robinson if I'm going to play a running back at captain. Hyde or Hollister on Draftkings? That's a close one, Joshua. I think Hyde is a little bit safer just because we know Hyde's going to get at least like 5 or 6 touches. But I think Hollister also gets a few targets too. But I would say Hyde's probably the safer option between him and Hollister. But man, that's a close one. Both, like Hyde and Hollister, their projections are pretty much identical. Hollister's projecting out for 6.2 DK points. Hyde's projecting out for 5.5. So Hollister's projecting out a little bit higher, but I mean, it's not by much. Under what circumstances, if any, would you captain a kicker? I mean, in order for a kicker to be the winning captain, you're going to need you're going to need them to probably kick like a bunch of long field goals. Like, I don't even know. I know there's been scenarios when a kicker's been the winning captain, but I can't remember if it was a high-scoring game, if it was a low-scoring game. I know Graham Gano recently, he had like a really big game, I thought. He had like 20-something DK points and was the winning captain, one of these slates. I can't remember which one it was. T-Money, $5 super chat from my man T-Money. He says, LFG, Noah, you the man. I've cashed a lot because you have the best content over on DFS, or best con ever on DFS. Ride or die to the end, broski. I appreciate you, T-Money. Thank you for the $5 super chat, my man. T-Money is a legend, man. He comes in here, he super chats all the time. He's a big-time follower. He's always in chat. I appreciate you, T-Money. Thank you for the $5 super chat, man. Thoughts on two young quarterbacks having a shootout or using the run game? I mean, the total in this game is not really high. Like, Vegas at least is not expecting much of a shootout. Like, I think the total's like 45 right now. Let me see. Yeah, or 46 total right now. I mean, Vegas really isn't expecting much of a shootout. I could see this game going over the total, though. I mean, I think both these quarterbacks are talented. Trevor Lawrence hasn't really gotten off to that good of a start this year, but Trevor Lawrence is still really talented. The only thing I worry about with like Cincy is that they seem pretty content on like just running the ball a lot. Like Joe Burrow's not really throwing the ball much this season, which is a concern, and that hurts the potential for a shootout. And I don't bet on games, but if I had to pick a side, I think tonight's game will probably go over the 46 total. Boyd or Mixon captain? I mean, Mixon's probably the better captain play if you have the salary to play him, and he projects better. But Boyd's also a lot cheaper, so if you have the salary for Mixon, I would just play Mixon and captain. James Robinson or Chase? I would probably go Jamar Chase there, Donnie. That's another close one. Both those guys project similarly, but I would probably go Jamar Chase. I have more interest in the passing game in this game than I do the running game. Like, I'm really focusing on the wide receivers and the quarterbacks tonight and just hoping that the running backs just kind of don't score any touchdowns. Because there's like 5-6 receivers that are in play tonight that I have interest in. Thoughts on Marvin Jones at captain? Yeah, Marvin Jones is a fine captain play for sure. He's led the Jaguars in targets so far this year. He's been the #1 receiver for Jacksonville. He's only 8,600. He's definitely someone you can play at captain for sure. How's this lineup? Boyd at captain with Burrow, Mixon, Tate, Jones, and Shark. I mean, I think that's pretty solid, Nick. I don't know if I might want to go Trevor Lawrence over Mixon since you already have Boyd captain with Burrow, with Tate. Like, it seems really unlikely that, like, all those Bengals are in the winning lineup unless it's, like, a big-time Bengals win. So I would play, like, Trevor Lawrence over Mixon. But that's still a pretty solid lineup. It's basically for me coming down to Chase or Mixon. It's a toss-up for me. What do you think? I think Mixon's the safer option just because I think he's going to get like 20 touches most likely. It's a good game script. They're home favorites. I would probably say Mixon, Jake. And Mixon projects higher. Right now, Mixon, with the projections that I use, he's actually projecting like as the highest player overall. He's got a 21.2 projection on Draftkings, and Burrow is the second highest at 18.9. So Mixon's actually the highest projected player on the slate with the projections I use. Thanks for the advice. Sure thing, Joshua. Sure thing, my man. Would it be crazy to not play a quarterback and just play all wide receivers and running backs? Yeah, that's probably crazy, Victor. It just seems really unlikely that that's the winning combination. In order for like all the receivers to be winning in the winning lineup, I don't even know what you would need to happen. You would need like the quarterbacks to get injured. Because if the receivers are putting up big games and they're going to be in the winning lineup, that means that the quarterback's getting the ball to them and also, putting up a big game as well. So, I would say don't do that. I got a lineup with no RBs. Is that a good idea? I mean, yeah, I think that's fine, Goldie. I don't think you have to play the running backs. Now, obviously, Joe Mixon is a scary fade. Joe Mixon could go out there and put up 120 yards and 2 touchdowns tonight. But like Joe Mixon, James Robinson, they're not guaranteed to do well. They're both going to get a lot of volume. You just got to hope that they don't score any touchdowns. You got to hope that all the touchdowns come through the air. And there's a lot of good receivers to play in this game, so I think it's totally fine to not play the running backs. Obviously, though, like if you're playing multiple lineups, yeah, get some exposure to the running backs. But if you're playing one lineup, I don't think you have to play either running back. Yeah, basically, I answered that, Hansi. I mean, it just comes down to how many lineups are you playing. If you're only playing one lineup, you can definitely fade the running backs. If you're playing 5, 10 lineups, obviously get some exposure to Mixon, get some exposure to James Robinson. There's going to be so much duplicate lineups. Good luck, everyone. Yeah, this is probably going to be a slate where you do see a lot of duplicated lineups because everyone's going to play Auden Tate. Everyone's going to play, Carlos Hyde, Jacob Hollister, and those are the best values on the slate. So it's a weird situation. I think it makes sense to maybe play one of those values and then kind of get a little bit different with maybe like 1 or 2 spots. But it's really rare that we get a player like as cheap as Auden Tate that actually projects for a decent amount of points. Like, so with the projections that I look at, Auden Tate is projected for 6.4 DraftKings points. Like, you never find players below $1,000 that are projected for 5 points minimum. Like, usually everyone that's like $1,000 or less is projected for like 3 points or less. Most of them are projected to score 0. So it's a weird situation tonight where we have a super cheap player that's actually projected for a decent amount of points. It's almost like, I don't want to say you have to play him, but it's going to just be really hard for him to kill your lineup. Damn, I'm late. Let's go. Hey, appreciate you being here, Racio. Even if you're a little late, my man, appreciate you being here. Any word if Dan Arnold's playing tonight? We should know right now, I would think. Actives come out like an hour and a half before game time, and I think the game's scheduled for 8:20. Okay, big one. Carlos Hyde is inactive. That's a big one. Carlos Hyde inactive. So if you had Carlos Hyde, he's not playing tonight, which makes James Robinson look a lot better. That's actually big. I did not expect that. Why is Carlos Hyde inactive? Like, who's their backup running back? Hold up. I don't even know who the Jaguars' backup running back is behind Carlos Hyde. Who is this? Nathan Cottrell? I don't even know who this dude is. I don't even know who is it Ozigbo? He's on the practice squad, so I don't even think he's on the active roster. Yeah, this is weird. I did not expect this. So Carlos Hyde is inactive. Definitely give a bump up to James Robinson, I would say. And if you had any Carlos Hyde in your lineups, obviously get him out. Sucks that Lambeau kicker is out. That's a cheap option that's not available to utilize. Yeah, I don't think they... Like, who is Jacksonville's... Or is that Jacksonville's kicker or Cincinnati's kicker? I don't even know. So it's Jacksonville's kicker. Did they add... So they didn't add the kicker to the player pool. So I guess, yeah, you can't play Jacksonville's kicker tonight. I don't even know who's going to be kicking for him, but he's not in the player pool. So that's a value play you can't go to. And now Carlos Hyde's off the board as well. That was a value play I was considering, and now he's off the board. I gotta go update this real quick though. Okay, so we just got a report. Carlos Hyde is a healthy inactive for tonight's game versus Cincinnati. That should open the door for more James Robinson. Dan Arnold, who just acquired trade with Carolina, is active. We're in 85. Okay, so Dan Arnold is officially active, and Carlos Hyde is inactive. And I don't even know how to say this dude's last name. Ongawalabale is gonna be the backup. So there you go, guys. Hopefully that cleared some things up, cleared up some question marks. So I don't want to say that Ongawalabale, like I don't know what he's going to project for, but he's going to be their backup running back tonight, and he's $200. So he's playable, I think. Especially if you want to get off the Alden Tate chalk, like Alden Tate's going to be the popular value that everyone plays. You could pivot to Ongawalabale, or God, I don't even want to Dare. I'll just say Dare. You could pivot to Dare, who's going to be the backup running back now. I don't know how many touches he gets though. That's the question mark. I think they're just going to go heavy James Robinson. Good luck, brother. Got to get back to work. Thank you for the content. Have a great day. I appreciate you being here, Victor. Good luck tonight, my man. I haven't had any good luck playing the kickers. I mean, yeah, kickers are random. Like, some nights you'll get, like, 6 DK points from a kicker. Some nights it'll be 12, 15. Like, you don't really know how many points a kicker's going to score. So... I think kickers are fine to play when there's not much value. Tonight, there's actually some punt options that you can play, so I don't think you need to go to the kickers. Just got here, Mixon, best small tourney captain. I mean, yeah, if you're playing like a small tourney, like a small field GPP with like, I don't know, 100, 200 people, it makes more sense to build like a safer cash game based lineup. So, yeah, Joe Mixon would be a good captain to use, I think, in something like that. Tavon Austin was activated. Tavon Austin's on the Jags. I didn't even know that. Yeah, he's someone I guess they could use out of the backfield. Man, Tavon Austin really hasn't... He was awesome in college, and he just hasn't done anything in the NFL. He's just been basically like a return man. And he's been all over the league. He used to play for the Cowboys. He played for the Rams. He's been everywhere. Mixon or J-Rob now? I mean, Mixon still projects better, Christy. So if you have the salary, I would play Mixon. But I do have a little bit more interest in Robinson now. Robinson he was probably like the least, out of all the top tier guys from LaVisca up, like Robinson was probably my least favorite. I think I would change that now. I think Robinson looks a little bit better. I assume Robinson's going to get a little bit of a bump in projection. I don't know what his projection was before. Right now it's, let's see. So right now, Robinson's projected for, let's see. Yeah, his projection was like 13. It got bumped up to 15. So, yeah, Robinson's definitely getting a boost with Carlos Hyde inactive. Shark or Chenault? Donnie, I'll be honest with you, man, that's a coin flip. Like, I don't really have a strong lean either way. I'd say Shark, I think, but man, like, just flip a coin. Like, those guys... I mean, DJ Shark's projected for 11.1 fantasy points. LaVisca's projected for 10.4. So, If you want to side with the projections, go with DJ Shark. Best sneaky captain for huge tourney. Mixon best captain for small tourney. Yeah, I would say Mixon's best for like a small tourney, but for like if you're playing like the Millie Maker, you tend to want to go a little bit off the board at captain. You don't have to go too crazy, but I think even like a Tyler Boyd who's projected for like 12% ownership at captain, I think he's a good captain. I think James Robinson's a much better captain option now. He wasn't getting much ownership at the captain. I think he'll get a little bit of a bump up now that Hyde's inactive, but still, James Robinson only projected for 4.7 captain ownership right now on DraftKings. So, like, those are guys I think you could definitely use at the captain spot in a big tournament. But, like, for a small GPP, like 100 people or less, you just want to go safe, play like even a quarterback at captain you could do. Yeah, Tavon Austin, man, he was a college legend, just hasn't done anything in the NFL. There's a lot of guys like that, man. Like Johnny Manziel. I think he had like one good year in the NFL, but Johnny Manziel. There's some other recent ones, like these dudes that just go nuts in college and then they get in the NFL and they just don't do anything. Hate to see it. J-Rob over Marvin Jones now. I mean, right now, James Robinson's projecting higher than Marvin Jones, so I think that's probably the safer play is to go with. I think James Robinson might get 25 touches tonight, and they'll utilize him in the pass game. Like even if they're playing from behind, he might get like 5-6 targets. So I think James Robinson is a very safe option for sure. He might not be very efficient. Like he might get stuffed at the line a lot. He might have 20 carries for 50 yards, but he's going to get the opportunity, I would say. Yeah, the Bengals' run defense has been good. So let me pull up on Football Reference real quick. Let's see. So rushing yards allowed to opposing running backs. The Bengals are, where are they at? They've only allowed 174 rushing yards to opposing running backs this season through 3 games, which is like best in the league with the Panthers, the Broncos, the Saints, the Cowboys. Bengals' run defense has been a lot better this year than they have in previous years. I still think James Robinson's a good option, though, because he's just going to get all the volume he can handle. Burrow or Mixon at captain? I would probably go with Mixon. Mixon projects higher. He's right now the highest projected player on the slate, like in terms of fantasy point projection. So I would say Mixon's the better captain option there. Besides Robinson, who else gets a bump? I mean, I don't think anyone else gets a bump except their backup, Dare, however you say his last name. He's expected to be the backup running back, and he's $200, so he's playable now. I don't think I'm going to play him, but he's at least a viable option. Let me see if he's even projected for any points. Let's see. Yeah, he's projected for 4 DraftKings points now. So, yeah, if you want to get different, man, like Auden Tate's projected for 6 DK points and is going to get a ton of ownership. Dare, however you say his last name, he's projected for 4 DK points and probably nobody's going to play him. So, that's a good way to get different tonight. Dare or Tate now? I mean, I prefer Tate because Tate projects higher, but I think Dare's going to be a lot lower owned. So if you're playing like a large field tournament, if you're playing the Millie Maker, I think it would make sense to just play Dare instead of Tate. Will Drew Sample see time on the field tonight with Uzama? I don't think Drew Sample's really been playing many snaps, to be honest with you, but I can check that real quick. I don't really think he's been targeted either this year. Let me see. So Drew Sample's played. He played 51% of the snaps week 1, 38% week 2, and 45% week 3. But I think I think he was just out there blocking. Like I don't know if they utilized Drew Sample really much in the passing game. I mean he's been playing like 50% of the snaps, but I'm guessing he's just out there blocking. I don't know if he's really out there running routes. So I don't think I'd be playing Drew Sample, just to be honest with you. Will Tavon Austin get the Hyde touches? We really don't know. The reports are that Dare is going to be the backup running back. So I think he's the guy that probably gets, like he's going to be the guy that gives James Robinson a breather. So whenever James Robinson needs to come out of the game, he needs a rest, they'll put Dare in there. At least that's what the reports are saying. Like all the big, big time like NFL reporters are all saying that Dare is going to be the backup running back. So he's definitely playable now. Tavon Austin, I don't really know what we can expect from him. What's Chase's captain ownership? Right now, Jamar Chase coming in with 10.4% projected ownership at captain, which is 4th highest. Like Jones Jr. and Boyd, my favorite captains tonight. Thank you for the kind words, Go. Appreciate it. You bet T-Money. You bet, my man. Marvin Jones, Tyler Boyd. Yeah, I think both those guys are very good captain options. Does not say inactive on Hyde. Just, you might want to refresh. It's already been reported. Every big media guy, Adam Schefter, Field Yates, all these guys have already reported it. So yeah, Carlos Hyde's inactive. Just refresh on DraftKings. I'll refresh my DK just so you can see. Yeah, so they got DK even has the out by Carlos Hyde now. Mixon or Lawrence? Mixon projects better, Ryan. I think that's going to come down to your lineup though. Like if you already have like Joe Burrow and some of his receivers, then I would probably just play Trevor Lawrence. But if you don't really have any Bengals in your lineup, then I would probably play Mixon. But if you're just asking who I think probably scores more points, I mean Mixon's the one that projects higher right now. All right, guys, I'm going to answer just these few last questions, and then we're going to hop out of here. Thoughts on Cincinnati defense? I don't think I'm playing the defenses on this slate, Ace of Spade. And if the defenses go out there and score multiple touchdowns or whatever it may be, I'll just take the loss, but I don't plan on playing any defenses tonight. Tate at captain? I mean, you could do that, Christy. I don't think that's something that I would be doing, but Tate's one of the better values for sure. So he's at least captain viable. I don't think he's going to get much ownership in the captain spot, though. Boyd at captain with Tate, Shark, J-Rob, Mixon, Lawrence. Boyd captain with Tate, Shark, J-Rob, Mixon, Lawrence. I mean, if you're playing Boyd at captain, I would want to pair him with Joe Burrow. I always pair quarterbacks with receivers when I'm playing a receiver at captain. So that would be my 2 cents there. If you could get to Burrow over Mixon, I would do that. But that's still a pretty solid lineup overall. Good luck, y'all. Let's get it. Hey, let's get it, T-Money. I'm about to hop out of here, guys. Appreciate all y'all being here. Lastly, Carlos Hyde inactive for tonight, so make sure to get him out of your lineups. And yeah, best of luck on this slate, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Wish you guys the best of luck. See you, fellas.